All right, we are all set.
Good evening, everyone. This is Al DeSalvo. I'm chair of the Albany City Planning Board, and this is a meeting of the Albany Planning Board's workshop. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the planning board members to get familiar with new proposals or to review older proposals that have come in with possible changes or refinements. This is a discussion among the planning board members and the staff of the city planning department, and there will be no public testimony. Testimony will be welcomed and of course allowed at our regular planning board hearing and planning board public meeting, which will take place 2 weeks from this evening. Once in a while, the planning board members may ask for clarifications through the planning staff to one of the applicants that might be around and listening in for any kind of follow-up or questions or clarifications. We have a number of items on the agenda, although some of them might be quite simple, so we might be able to get through this fairly soon and fairly quickly. So let's get started.
I'm shooting for 90 minutes, Al.
What'd you say?
I'm shooting for 90 minutes.
That is, yes, that is what we're hoping for, if not less. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is 255 through 271 Clinton Avenue, and this is to request, it's a major development plan review, and it's to request a construction of a parking lot with 38 spaces, which is part of the home leasing development projects along Clinton Avenue. Okay, Zach.
Perfect. Thanks, Al. Here's the project site just as a reminder. This was before the board for a seeker lead agency declaration in November of last year. The applicant is looking to create a parking lot in the rear portion. So I'll try and, give me just 1 second, I'll try and draw. They're looking to create a parking lot in the rear portion of these buildings right here, as well as in this vacant area as well. This is located in a mixed-use neighborhood edge zoning district and is in the Arbor Hill neighborhood. Oops, sorry, let me get rid of the annotation. Sorry about that. So just for a little bit of clarification, this application is advertised as 255 to 271 Clinton Avenue. It also includes lots 243, 245, and 251, but they are being consolidated into 255 Clinton Avenue, just for clarification. This is the site plan for the proposed parking lot, with the majority of the parking being on 255 Clinton Avenue, but other parcels will have parking in the rear, and the applicant is looking to establish a cross-access easement so that people who may live at 271 Clinton Avenue are not going to be prevented from accessing the parking lot at 255 Clinton Avenue. So this was before the board for seeker lead agency declaration on November 10th of last year. They're also going for to the Board of Zoning Appeals for an area variance to allow 21 parking spaces on 255 Clinton Avenue when the maximum permitted number is 3. This has been referred to the County Planning Board for their June 17th meeting. We're still waiting to get back some comments from departments, but for the most part, parking lots are relatively simple when referring out to other departments. So we're anticipating to receive comments by the June 29th meeting. And the applicant is looking to at least provide parking for the residents of 255 to 271 Clinton Avenue, but is open to allowing residents of other home leasing projects in the surrounding area to park there as well. This came up during discussion for 163 Clinton Avenue as well. Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, regarding the lot consolidation. So what you're saying is that the entire area, not only behind the buildings that go all the way to 271, the buildings themselves will be consolidated into the one lot, or it's
No,
just
it's
the
just
other
going to be,
way around?
it's just these 4 lots that'll be consolidated. The other lots will still remain distinct. And that was, we had recommended to the applicants to consolidate all the lots, but there were some financial issues, I think, in terms of funding with consolidating all of the lots. So that's why they're just doing this smaller consolidation.
Okay. And the reason that 255 Clinton Avenue only allowed 3 parking places is because it literally is just one narrow lot and not more of that entire area.
I believe it's because it has 3 dwelling units within the townhouse that's on 255 right now. So the way that we're interpreting parking is that the max number of spaces for townhouse dwelling is 3 spaces. So that's why that's kind of the basis for that area variance request.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? Okay. The next item then is 25 Delaware Avenue. This is something that we've seen a few times before. This is the conversion of and the construction of a project of multifamily using the old historic building that used to be the Senior Citizen Center.
Great, thanks, Al. So I'll try being quick with this since the board has seen this before. Here's a picture of the side of the property showing the signal building in between the existing trees there. This is located in a mixed-use community urban zoning district and is located in the Park South neighborhood. Here's a site plan as a reminder. The applicant's looking to make renovations to the existing signal building to provide community amenities within that building, but then provide the new residential units in a new structure directly behind the signal building. And this is a rendering of what that'll look like. The applicant has gone before the Historic Resources Commission on a number of occasions and has worked with them to make sure that the signal building is the priority architecturally and is keeping with the scale of Hackett Middle School, which you can see to the left on the screen. The last time this was before the board was June of last year, so it's coming up on a year. The application's been referred to the county planning board for their meeting. The applicant's still addressing some minor comments from departments, but again, as with the previous application, we're anticipating that those should be addressed prior to the June 29th meeting. Did anyone have any questions on this?
I think one of the major issues back then was that the building's architecture was rather ponderous. Has that changed? That one small drawing that you showed is really not very clear. And have they made what kind of connection architecturally have they made between the old historic building and the new structure?
Yeah, I just for the audience's awareness, Al, can you just elaborate on why you were thinking the design was ponderous? I can go into the design connection between the two structures.
Well, it had a significant, I mean, it was gray, if I remember right, and even though they punched out one side, it had a look of just being too dense for the site. And I know that suggestions were made that they make the building look, almost more open and airy, and that was similar to the connection between the historic building and the and the apartment building itself. I remember that the connection between the two was a lot of glass, a lot of open, airy feeling, but the apartment building itself was much more opaque, I guess is the best word. So I'm just wondering if that's changed at all.
Yeah, I think the design that you're referring to, the exterior facades, I think were all white or very similar color to white at that point. And I think the height, as shown in the rendering, made it look like the new building was going to be taller or larger in scale as compared to Hackett Middle School. Again, the applicant received those comments and kind of modified the design to take into consideration those elements, making sure that the height is consistent with the surrounding buildings. Initially, they had proposed doing more of a formalized glass structure connecting the two buildings. But again, when looking at this in consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office and the Historic Resources Commission, any permanent modifications to the signal building were not going to be supported by either of those entities. So they're just using a breezeway at this point, which allows for the construction of the new building and kind of provides, somewhat of a less permanent connection between the two. But again, trying to respect the design and kind of separate architectural characteristics between the two buildings.
Okay. Well, I hope at the planning board meeting that we will be able to see more elevations and perspectives.
Yes, there are other what am I trying to say? Perspectives for the rendering. So there are more that are on the application file on the self-service website for the city, and you all should have that in your Dropbox files. But I can relay that to the applicant, maybe just as a reminder to show all the proposed elevations and renderings.
Okay, we'll check the Dropbox too. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, 191 North Pearl Street. We saw this one a few times, and it's back on the agenda. This was in a proposal for the development of a modest-sized multifamily building in the warehouse district just north of the Palace Theater.
Yeah, so not much has changed with this application, and likely it's not going to be in a position to be acted on this month. So it might even be removed from the agenda for the June 29th meeting. But I don't think it'll be much longer than the July meeting, since really just it's confirming that they're meeting any new standards in between when this was originally approved in 2016 and now. So this will likely not be on, but there's a potential that it could be if there's a major change in between now and then.
Okay. 64 State Street. This is a new proposal. This is for a major development plan review for the development of apartments at a vacant, well, at least, I don't know if it's vacant, but the building that used to be UHY offices. I went and looked at the site and went in the back. I did notice lights on, so I'm not sure the building is vacant or not.
Perfect, thanks, Al. So this is a photo of the exterior. It's the building in the center. This is located in the mixed-use downtown zoning district and is bounded by State Street as well as Norton Street. And I'll go through the floor plans right here. The left side is going to be State Street and the right side is going to be Norton Street, just for context. There is proposed commercial unit spaces within the building, as well as tenant amenities throughout. So there's commercial on the Norton Street entrance and the State Street entrance. And then as we progress onto the upper floors, there's a combination of studios to 2-bedroom units throughout. And there's also an atrium in the center that carries through to the top of the building. So second and third floor plan are fairly similar. The profile shifts a little bit on the fourth floor plan, and then the applicant is also proposing to install a roof deck as part of the required passive indoor or outdoor recreation space. The location of this deck may change just due to mechanical placement, but they are promising to provide at least 320 square feet on the roof deck to meet their 10% site requirement for recreational space. So here's a chart showing the unit mix. Primarily 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms with 3 studios. And the median size of the 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms are 700 square feet, with the studios being 350 square feet. This will be their first appearance before the board. There's no parking requirements within the downtown zoning district, and they're not proposing any. This has been referred to the county planning board, but this is still being reviewed by city departments, so it'll likely appear at a follow-up planning board meeting in the future as well. Did anyone have any questions on this application?
This is a beautiful building. Historically, I mean, the facade is really nice. It's actually 2 buildings kind of in one, and it's good that it's might be coming back to life. Again, as a downtown residential area, this is one of a whole lot that we've seen in the last year. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 76 and 83rd Avenue. This is a proposal to take the old Varden roofing company and develop 7 apartment units in it.
Great, thanks, Al. And just for clarification, it does say garage space. I think it's a little more accurate to say storage space, and that's my fault, but we'll kind of go through what the space is currently used as right now as we get through the slides. So on the left is a aerial shot of the site. As you can see, there's kind of an internal courtyard towards the back of the site.
Just to orient the other board members, this is just a little bit west of Elizabeth Street and 3rd Avenue. Then on the overhead, you can see that that's the corner there of Elizabeth and 3rd. Up to the right, I meant to say.
So the area that I just drew is 76 and 80 3rd Ave. So as you see, it gets wider as you move to the rear of the site. And it's located in the south end within a mixed-use neighborhood edge zoning district. The reason that it's coming before the board because it's a change of use on a lot that's more than 10,000 square feet in size. So here's a photo of the exterior from 3rd Ave looking in. You can see the Barton building, which is the red building on the left, and you can see in the center as it looks towards the back of the site. And the tan building on the right is not included as part of this application, just for context. So these are existing conditions. Again, let me get the annotation feature out just to draw that real quickly. So 76 and 80 is essentially this area right here. And I'll progress on to the next slide. So there are 5 existing units right now, and they're looking to add 7, so it'll create a total of 12 units for the site. The areas that are highlighted in orange are the portions that are kind of used for storage space right now, that kind of look like garages that are looking to be converted into units. And you can see the unit size on the right-hand side of the screen. I'll get to the median unit size a little bit later in the presentation. But just for orientation, 3rd Avenue would be towards the right of the screen. And so the majority of the units are going to be on the ground floor, with 2 units, one being on the 2nd floor and then one being on the 3rd floor. Here are the elevations. So this is the larger building on the left is the Varden building, with the other 2 buildings next to it. So this is kind of showing a shot of the smaller center building and kind of medium-sized building on the right-hand side. This is the elevation looking from 3rd Avenue, and it's a little bit tricky, but this is also the perspective looking south, but the building on the right is obstructed by that tan building. So that's why you see these kind of in line, but it's a forced perspective. And then this is the western elevation over here, as you can see, kind of with the old warehouse storage space as well. And this is kind of a combination of structures over time that have been added and consolidated together. So this will be the first appearance before the planning board. The average unit size is 895 square feet. The requirement is 750 square feet. The unit mix is 3 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedroom units. The applicant's still addressing some minor comments that, again, will be addressed by the June 29th meeting. And no additional parking needs to be provided since the change of use is a reduction in the required amount of parking. So the current use is heavy commercial services. The square footage allotted to that is about 9,000 square feet, with required number of spaces being 1 per 1,000 square feet. With there being 7 new dwelling units, that's only 7 for the new proposed use. So it's actually a reduction in the required numbers of spaces. So they do not need to provide any additional offsite parking on the properties or on a nearby property. Does anyone have any questions on this?
76 will be the parking area?
The applicant's not proposing parking as a part of this. So there wasn't any formalized parking to begin with. I think it was just kind of informally used as storage area for the site. So there's not parking as part of this application.
How is the applicant going for historic tax credits? This is in a historic district, I believe, and that building certainly might be within the district, but I'm not sure, but I believe it's a historic district.
Yeah, it is within the district. I don't think they're going for tax credits because we haven't received any material stating that they are. Most of the modifications to the elevations are not visible from the public right-of-way. So for the majority of the work, they do not need a certificate of appropriateness. And most of the work that's being proposed is consistent with the district. So it's a minor certificate of appropriateness that's handled. I'm sorry. The applicant is stating that they're going for tax credits. So thank you for the clarification, August. But the majority of the work is not visible from the public right-of-way, and the work that is being proposed is consistent with the district standards. The applicant's still working to make some modifications to the trash enclosure for the site, which is required to be consistent with the district and be made of a stockade or masonry material in order to obstruct the dumpster from view from the public right of way.
So does the Historic Resources Commission or the State Historic Preservation Office have a role in this if they're going for tax credits?
Yeah, so for this project, since they're just looking to renovate the interior of the structure, that's considered a type 2 action under seeker. So no additional review is required at that point. Okay. So, when the State Historic Preservation Office looks at it, the application for tax credits, they'll be looking to confirm that the work is consistent with their standards. That's kind of a separate process, but in order for the applicant to get tax credits, they need to make sure that the work is consistent with the character of the buildings and of the district.
Okay. Well, that'll be a nice boost for that area. I'm hoping that maybe one of the things that might be very valuable if this project gets off the ground and gets going is that the buildings to the right, not the first one, but I believe the second and third and maybe even fourth building west of that project are all vacant, boarded up with the white X's on them. And it might spur a little bit of development along that area once the investments going on in this project.
Yeah, the applicant is looking to renovate that tan building. I'll quickly go back to that. They are looking to renovate that townhouse, but that's just being done as a separate project. So there will be more units as well coming online in the immediate area.
And I stand corrected. I noticed that one does have an X on it. So yeah, no, that's great. Okay, are there any other questions on that project?
No questions, Al.
Okay. The next one on the agenda is 800 and 812 Central Avenue, which is the development of a gas station with a convenience store. This is already a gas station, and they're looking to, I guess, develop it into a larger project. And they're going to be taking down the auto glass company, which is the building to its east. To orient you, this is right across from, I think, right across from Demolished Chevrolet.
Yep, I believe that's correct. And just for the board and just for everyone's clarification, the mailing address for those properties is 808 and 812 Central Avenue, but the property addresses are 804 and 808 Central Avenue. So that's been updated on these slides in the agenda for this meeting as well. The applicant initially submitted an application for demolition review before they are submitting a major development plan review application. So this will kind of function as a concept review as well as the first appearance for demolition review. So here are photos of the proposed structures to be demolished. And thanks for the context for the location, Al. This is located in a mixed-use community highway zoning district along Central Avenue right near the intersection of Central and Everett Road. This is site plan sheet showing the existing conditions for the site. I'll go back to the picture. So there's an existing convenience retail building, gas canopy, and then the existing building. Chris, would you mind putting your self on mute?
Sorry, Zach.
No worries. And then here's the glass building as well that's proposed to be demolished as part of the project. So this is the site plan showing the existing conditions. And again, these are the buildings proposed to be demolished. So the applicant's looking to demolish all those three structures, construct a new convenience retail structure, and I'll get out my annotation feature to make it a little more obvious. This is the proposed convenience retail building that they'll be constructing. And then these are the two vehicle fueling canopies. They're also looking to do a lot modification to take the two lots and modify the lot line. So there's a front parcel, this parcel A, as well as a rear parcel B that will be potentially developed in the future. And it doesn't have a proposed use at this time. And the applicant's working with Morden's, who's to the immediate east, to develop a cross-access easement so that people are, as much as possible, using the existing lighted Everett Road to reduce potential negative traffic impacts on the site. And I believe, give me just 1 second. And the applicant's proposing to recycle at least 35% of the building materials, and that'll include steel, glass, electrical wiring, conduit, and piping. You know, and based on the scale of this project, this hasn't been referred out to departments yet since we haven't received a full development plan review application. You know, so we would be recommending holding off on action until we know more, and our traffic engineering division has more time to ensure that it's the appropriate siting and that there's appropriate ingress and egress for vehicles to the site. Are there any questions from the board?
I would want to see them. Could you go back to the site plan? How many?
The proposed or
that one? Yeah. How many pumps are there? They're proposing
10 vehicle fueling pumps.
20. Okay, so each one of those little symbols is one fueling station, not two.
Yep.
I would like to know if they're also going to be putting in electric charging stations. I mean, we've got to start getting that on the agenda, and if we could, requiring them in any gasoline station proposals or any renovation like this one, because fossil fuels is, for obvious reasons, killing the planet, but most importantly, automobile manufacturers are going to be developing electric cars very substantially, and will be trying to meet the guidelines that are occurring in many states, including New York. So I think the Speedway people should be looking at doing that as part of this development.
Yeah, there are some people that are also, you know, potentially looking to expand the use of hydrogen as a potential fuel as well too. So, you know, that could be another kind of energy type to bring up to them at the meeting on the 29th. Did anyone have any other? Yep, sorry.
Any other thoughts?
It's a nice touch to talk about the electric fueling now.
Okay, thanks. The next project is a fascinating one. This is 242 Spruce Street. The developer is Patrick Chu, and this is a concept review of a major development plan that will include 70,000 square feet of expansion of a commercial structure into 54 dwelling units and 8,200 plus feet of commercial uses. This building, to orient the board, is down in the hollow on Spruce Street, and you could see it as you're going over the Henry Johnson Bridge. So it's hard up against the bridge and down in the hollow. So I would be fascinated to learn about the environmental effects of this building in terms of, and the marketability because of its location.
Great, thanks, Al. So this is a picture of the site. Some of the associated buildings were demolished within the past year. This is located in a mixed-use community urban zoning district. And as Al mentioned, it's in Sheridan Hollow. Excuse me, just for clarification, the applicant in their application had put that they were proposing 37 dwelling units, but I think as part of this, they are potentially considering adding a story, which would add an additional 17 units. So I changed the, again on the agenda, changed that from 37 to 54. So we can go over that again on the next slides, but I just wanted to make people at the meeting right now aware of that change. So this is the first floor plan. This is where all the proposed commercial uses would be. There are some that are dedicated to a specific use like a gym and cafe lounge. And there's a larger 4,700 square foot commercial unit that does not have a designated or proposed use at this point. And this is where the 22 parking spaces would also be located. There are units on the remaining.
Where Spruce Street is on this plan?
Yep, sorry about that.
Could you just orient us to where Spruce Street is?
Yep. So Spruce would be to the south, or I'm sorry, to the north of the screen, if I'm remembering this correctly. And I will pull up a map just to confirm that so I can give all the streets that bound it. So bear with me just one second. Yep, so it's Spruce to the north, Elk to the south, and then Henry Johnson on the left-hand side. And then it's the vacant lots to the right-hand side. So apologies about that. There's a combination of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units, as well as there's some tenant amenity roof space on the second floor. And as we continue on to the third and fourth floor, there are more 1- and 2-bedroom units being proposed. These are the initial elevations. Again, this is going for concept review, so this is still in a preliminary phase. With these kind of being basic elevations that'll probably be enhanced as the applicant moves further through the project. So this first elevation is from Spruce Street, from Elk Street, facing Henry Johnson Boulevard. And then this is the area facing the adjacent vacant lots. So this will be the first appearance before the planning board. There's 37 one-bedroom units and 17 two-bedroom units. The average one-bedroom unit size is 1,090 square feet, and the average two-bedroom unit size is 1,170 square feet. And since this is over 50 units, the applicant would be required to submit an affordable housing compliance plan for the site.
Those unit sizes are much bigger than we've been seeing lately.
Yeah. And then I went through the initial kind of parking calculations, so I'll try and be quick with this. This might change based on, you know, as the application progresses. There's a total of 82 spots that would be required, with 22 being provided. But as you look through the adjustments remove 50 of the required spaces because it's close to frequent transit. There are shared parking for the multifamily units as well as that 4,000 square foot commercial space. And there's also approximately 23 on-street parking spaces on Spruce and Elk as well. So the applicant is deficient by 10 spaces currently. Does anyone have any questions on this application?
It's an unusual place, that's for sure. I'm hoping that it's marketable.
Zach, what is with the new story on there? Its height in comparison to the overpass and the bridge.
I think at that point it would be taller than the overpass. I'll try and go back to that initial photo. So I mean, it is a little bit taller right now, but it would, I think, as we're seeing in this picture, and bear with me just one second, I think it would come to about the height of the elevator staircase shaft that's already there right now. So I think it would just kind of fill in that vacant space.
Thank you.
And you're saying the buildings, we're looking west. Are you saying that the building with that white facade is no longer there? This is an old picture? Or
no, this is a current picture.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's part of the building. And it's Zach, if I'm right, that's where the amenity space, the outdoor amenity space would be on that second floor on the rooftop space that we looked at.
Yep, and then the parking would be on the ground floor.
Oh, okay. Okay. It looked kind of like a separate building, and so I was wondering. I thought you said something about a building that was demolished.
The buildings where you can see, you know, the dirt, you know, and the cement. There were buildings along here that were demolished. It was a series of one-story buildings that were demolished through an emergency demolition within the past year.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions about this one? Okay, the next item is Sherman Street. This is a proposal by the Legal Aid Society to change the zoning on a parking lot that they have.
Great, thanks, Al. And then there's just another update. This was initially put into the agenda as 81 through 85 Sherman Street, but this is actually 77 through 85 Sherman Street. So just wanted to make that note as well. Here's an image of the site right now, which is mainly vacant land. You can kind of see on the left-hand side that the Legal Aid Society has an existing parking lot, and they're looking to expand that lot as part of this application. It's located in an R2 zoning district, and it's immediately adjacent to a mixed-use community urban zoning district, and is across the street from a mixed-use form-based Central Avenue zoning district. And this is located in the West Hill neighborhood. So again, here's the current zoning and the proposed zoning. As you can see on the right, in the red outline, those lots would change to mixed-use community urban to extend the existing mixed-use community urban zoning district. And here's a image of the proposed parking lot that the Legal Aid Society would be constructing. And I think I have this a little bit out of order, but just for some context, they're looking to change the zoning to mixed-use community urban. And this is kind of part of a larger zoning amendment to change parking lots from solely an accessory permitted use to a conditionally permitted use within the mixed-use community urban zoning district. This was reviewed by the board under Zoning Text Amendment 12. It just has not been acted upon by the Common Council, but this was a project that kind of prompted the Common Council to bring this up as an item again on their agenda. So just for the context of the board, this will be coming back for both a conditional use permit as well as major development plan review if this zoning map amendment is approved. So again, this is an image of the proposed parking lot, which would be expanding east to provide 32 more spaces. And for the justification for the amendment, the applicant is stating that they are going to be having a total of 51 people working there full time, and there's only 28 spaces, so there's a deficit in the number of spaces, off-street spaces that exist for the use. And they're also going to have a total of 15 more employees returning to the office as soon as possible. So this would create some reorganization with the office and potentially force some staff to work from home during the construction. So this is a project and proposal that has been in development for, I think, the past year and a half with the Legal Aid Society. So our office has been working with the applicant along with members of the Common Council to find a solution for this. So based on conversations with our department and the Common Council, it appeared that this zoning map amendment made the most sense as part of a larger sequence of project reviews along with the conditional use permit and major development plan review.
They say in this text that the closure of our rental space in Midtown, they're on Colvin Avenue. That's hardly Midtown unless this is another, building. Where they're currently located is sort of Midtown now, I would guess.
I think there is a lot in between there, but we can have the applicant can provide a little bit more information on that at the public hearing.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the rental space is in Midtown, where they have 15 other employees. The picture that you shows a house. Is that near the parking lot? Yeah, that house. How does that relate to the parking lot? Is the parking lot just that proposal? Is everything to the east of the house?
So I believe that the house has been demolished, and I will provide an update on that for the meeting. But I believe the house has been demolished or will be proposed to be demolished. So I'll get clarification on that for the meeting. And the applicant just sent a message stating that they have retained rental space at Colvin Avenue that they will be vacating shortly, and that 79 Sherman Street was destroyed in a fire in 2019.
Uh-huh.
So thank you for the clarification. And they also noted that 77 Sherman is been condemned, but is still standing.
So is that 77 Sherman, or is that?
I believe that is 70. I believe that is 77 Sherman.
Oh, okay, because they first said about a fire, and okay, so that building is still standing.
So what are they looking to do with that building? Are they looking, I don't know if they own it and are looking to get it demolished? Do they have a plan for that building?
They do own that building. I believe they're proposing to demolish it unless, there's an emergency demo in between now and then. So it does say that they are looking to demolish it. So that would be another review by the board if it's, a voluntary demolition, meaning that it's not an emergency demolition in between now and when they are ready to begin the review for the parking lot.
Thank you. Well, I have a chicken and an egg type of question, Zach. Sorry about that. So should they be bring forth the application for the parking lot? Shouldn't they be bringing forth the demo, the full plans? It just feels kind of piecemeal that I think I probably would have expected to see a request for the demolition and then the full plan for the parking lot and how that would go.
Yeah, it is kind of segmented. Part of this is they would only be able to submit an application for a parking lot if it is a permitted principal use. And to get to that point, they have to have the zoning amended for the site. So, kind of this first phase is amending the zoning to be able to mixed use community urban. And then kind of that second phase is looking at the actual physical development of the site. So that would be the development plan review, the demolition review, and the conditional use permit. So, the proposed demolition, that's something that the board can take into consideration as they're looking at this. But, as with any zoning map amendment, it's good to think of, other potential uses that could be at the site, in the event that the Legal Aid Society is not able to construct the parking lot. So it's good to think of all possibilities, especially the proposal that the applicant has in mind for the site.
I guess they need to move on the rezoning because it'll take a while to get through Common Council.
There are sponsors. There are sponsors for the map amendment, so I think it should get through a little bit more quickly. Councilmember Doshate has been assisting with moving that application through the council, so I think that shouldn't take as long.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are we ready to go on to the next one, or are there any other questions about this one? Okay, the last item then is on Clinton Street. And this is a proposal also to change the zoning to amend the map from an RT, the townhouse, to mixed use neighborhood edge. This property, when I looked at it, I noticed that there used to be a either restaurant or bar on the first floor. And I believe that the owner is looking to do something similar.
Great, thanks, Al. And They are looking to also get a conditional use permit. As Al was mentioning, they're looking to occupy that ground floor, which I think is about, and bear with me just one sec, it's 1,300 square feet. They're looking to occupy that as a restaurant, kind of slash catering banquet facility. So they will also be before the board for conditional use permit review. So here's a picture showing 91, 93, and 95 Clinton Street. This is located in a RT zoning district and is located in the south end. Just for a little bit of context, the applicant, when staff members from our department met with them, they were looking to do the zoning map amendment, but we had also recommended that they include the other properties on the other corners as well, because all of those corners either currently have a building that was modified to allow for a commercial structure, or in the case of this corner right here, there was a building that was modified to have commercial uses that was demolished. So we were recommending to the applicant that they submit an application that included those properties as well to provide a larger benefit within the surrounding area. The applicant's still working to get the signatures of either the property owners or the common council member for the ward to be able to have the authority to submit that application. So right now, they only have the authority to submit it for 91, 93, and 95 Clinton Street, but they are looking to expand that application as well to include all four corners. Here is a floor plan for the proposed restaurant, with the restaurant pretty much taking the majority of the floor plate. And there is an existing addition that would just be kind of used as informal storage space for the restaurant. So as part of the application, they'd be changing the zoning, at least for 91, 93, and 95, as you can see right here. But if they get the signatures of the other property owners on the corner, they'd also be changing these three properties as well.
And you say that those were in the past properties with commercial on the first floor and residential above.
Yep.
And this is what, 2 blocks from South Pearl Street?
Yes, I believe so. This is at the intersection of Clinton Street and 4th Avenue.
I think one of the things that I thought of when I saw the property, although I did not see the other sites that were mentioned, I was more fixated on looking specifically at the property, but the board might want to consider how spot zoning may look. I think Zach is suggesting getting those other properties into the mixed use neighborhood edge district so that there is a context beyond just the residential. And as you could see here, as Zach is going through these, this is very close to some of the investments that were done by the Albany Housing Authority as well. So it would be a very positive thing if that corner can be developed. So there it is in context as he flipped through the photographs of the 3 locations.
Yep, and so this the structure that, let me see if I have the annotation feature on. This structure right here was demolished, but this also had a commercial component to this as well.
And that's now a community garden.
But if there's,
because
you know, some sort of transition where there's maybe a use that supports a community garden that's maybe not otherwise permitted in a townhouse zoning district, like a cultural facility or something like that, that would also allow for that to take place as well. So there could be a supportive use for a community garden. And the applicant also just mentioned they are looking to do a lot modification. That's something that doesn't appear before the planning board, but that is going to be kind of a secondary phase. The applicant is looking to construct new buildings within the vacant lot here and within the existing structure at 95 Clinton over here. So that'll be kind of a secondary component of the overall project that they're looking to do.
how old is this photograph? Because there they show a shop that's been open.
Yeah, this is 2016.
Oh, so it wasn't too long ago that the property was being used as a commercial space.
Right.
Any questions on this by the board?
No questions.
Okay.
And we did have a question of just what type of restaurant it is. Again, I'm not sure of the particular type of food, but it is kind of a banquet hall kind of facility / restaurant. So I think it has the option for maybe if people want to reserve the space for events, they can do that. I'm not sure if alcohol will be served. There's a question about that. As a restaurant, that there are certain limitations on the hours when alcohol can be served, and it's again just with a restaurant, the alcohol is not the principal kind of food stuff being sold to people. So it's primarily food with the potential for alcohol service, and there are limitations on how long alcohol service can extend beyond food service closing.
Well,
the applicant stated that it'll be.
I was just going to say, I think
real
those
quickly
issues can be discussed at the planning board meeting, where also the people that are now asking the questions could be in testimony instead of going through the chat. Or the person asking the questions can get in touch with the applicant and talk to that person directly.
Yeah, and now just for a little bit of clarification, the applicant did say that it's Caribbean food that they're looking to serve. And the only reason why I'm bringing up these questions is just because the South End Neighborhood Association meeting is usually on the same night as our planning board hearings and meetings. And that's those are questions being asked by someone from the Neighborhood Association. So just trying to provide that context just so that they can report that out at their next meeting.
The Neighborhood Association could also send a representative to the meeting, to the planning board meeting.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? We also wanted to okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry there. I guess I cut you off there. Is this more of the same project?
Yep. Yeah, this is just some additional information, just showing the hours of operation, maximum occupancy, number of employees, closest similar use. So this is all information that's also within the conditional use permit application.
Okay. All right. The other item that we wanted to bring up, which was mentioned, is whether we should consider keeping planning board meetings to maybe an hour and a half or some other time limit. And I wanted to put that before the board. Unfortunately, we have two people absent with Roman with medical issues and Martin on vacation. But I wanted to get some opinion from the other planning board members. Last meeting, of course, was a 3.5 hour meeting. We had a lot on the agenda, and I don't know what the future meetings are going to look like. But as you can see here, we have about 9 items. Some of them are relatively simple, but some of them may go into more detail, and we may have significant testimony by staff, by the public. So I guess there are pros and cons to this, and I wanted to get some sense from the planning board members, at least Glenessa and Chris, what you guys think about setting a limit.
Well, I certainly don't look forward to any long 3.5 hour meeting, but ultimately, as a member of the board, I also feel obligated, and this is what we signed up for. If the applicants are following the process of submission, and the planning staff is doing their due diligence on them, and it's supposed to come before the board, I wouldn't want a time limit to prevent people from advancing on their work.
Okay.
I have to agree with Chris on that. Like, I appreciate time limits for what they're for, but at the same time, you know, I think we owe it to the community to listen, and the applicant to listen and get as much information as possible to help us, you know, come to an answer to the question or an approval or what have you.
Well, yeah, the reason I brought it up was because the last meeting was quite long, and we did have some significant testimony on some of the projects that was a lot longer than normal. Although, you know, from what I can gather, in a lot of cases, people repeated themselves, and that's one of the things that kept the meetings going. To me, it seems like one's endurance and focus tends to wane after about an hour and a half. So that's.
We don't disagree with you, Al.
Say that again?
I said I don't disagree with you at all.
I agree with that part too. Then maybe look at if we look at time limits, because when I heard time limits, I'm thinking limiting the amount of time people had to talk. But if we look at time limits as far as how long the meeting is going to go and having to table items, I'm not opposed to that, because it's still allowed, even though, you know, we may say, okay, our meetings are only going to be 2 hours and we're going to get whatever we can done within that 2 hour time period. And we're not limiting the comments or the presentations. I think we still hit the mark of people being able to bring forth their proposals and the public being able to respond to those proposals for us to adequately listen. But I agree, it does a disservice if by hour 3 we're all looking at the screen or even sitting in person glassy-eyed and hungry, and that's not, at that point, you know, we're not helpful to anybody.
So what you're suggesting is a possible time limit in terms of the whole meeting.
Correct.
And then the applicants and the public can keep that in mind as they proceed.
Right. And if we have to table some items from this meeting to the next meeting, then that's what we're going to have to do. It sort of kicks the can down the road, but at the very least, we're able to pay the requisite amount of attention to the issues.
Okay.
I would just add to, you know, I'm happy to help to make, you know, meetings kind of as efficient and, manageable for everyone involved too. So if it's something where we're using kind of a combination of techniques, again, we have the option for consent agenda items. We can always take breaks in the middle of two. People feel free to eat and drink as you need to during the meeting too. So I think there's a lot of ways to do it. If we do time limits for the meeting, I think that's definitely an option. I think it would just be more likely that our workshops would probably transition to workshops and meetings as well on a pretty consistent basis. So those are just things to think about as we move forward. I think there's opportunities to test some of these out to see if, one solution works better than the other, or a combination of tactics may work better. But I'm happy to work with you all, again, to make sure that the public can comment, but also that it's manageable and, every application's given the full, review that it deserves. So I guess kind of on that line too, are there any items that you all see as potential consent agenda items, or anything you would like to try for the upcoming meeting in terms of time spent on certain applications, or even the presentation time maybe for applicants as well?
Well, in reference to consent agenda, how are we with the ones that require conditional use in public hearings, like major development plans and things like that? Some of them are quite simple, like the rezone, the Clinton Avenue project, the first one that we looked at. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a conditional use and a major development. I think it's conditional use. I can't see it here that well. But it's a major development plan. So could we do a consent agenda on something like that?
Yeah, so for the board members and for people watching, so there are certain items that require a public hearing and some are just a public meeting. So major development plan review applications only require meetings, but there are certain types of applications like conditional use permits and zoning map amendments that require a public hearing. So if it's the first appearance and there hasn't been a hearing for a zoning map amendment or a conditional use permit, then that can't be a consent agenda item because public input is required. But for things like major development plan review, a public comment period is not required. We encourage it though, just so that people have, a similar opportunity to be heard as you would with a public hearing, but the board has the option to either remove the public comment period for major development plan review applications, or limit the time that a member of the public may have to speak on behalf of an application.
Yeah, well, that fits in nicely to Linessa's proposal, where then the public will have to decide, how much time they want to use for a particular project, and therefore, there's a lot of what public comments have been in the past have been repetitive, where everybody's making the same points. And even though we suggest that people make different points, and in one case at our last meeting, there was a representative who made comments as a representative of an organization, and then she made the exact comments point by point as an individual. So that, that kind of thing takes up a lot of time. So that might be prevented if we, set a time limit.
Yeah, and for that individual, just for everyone's kind of knowledge, I did state that they only got 3 minutes total for both their representation as an applicant, or excuse me, as a representative of an organization as well as a private citizen. So I don't give, 3 minutes per kind of position that someone may hold. It's just 3 minutes per person, except for common council members who get 6 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go by that, would we, if, I think that we probably would not want to proceed with this until we get some input from Roman and from Martin. So I would maybe suggest that we consider this in July. Would that
Okay.
be all right by the planning board members and staff?
Okay by me, Al.
I'm fine with that.
I think that's good too, just also so that we can advertise that it'll only be a 2-hour meeting too, just so it gives members of the public adequate notice as well, just to prepare for, you know, maybe attending the workshop if they normally don't as well. So I think that's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds like a plan for now. Is there any other items that you want to bring up before the board, before the meeting is adjourned?
Just for the
Okay,
board
then.
members' sake, oh, sorry, real quick, Al. Just for the board members' sake, I'm going to be out of the office next week and the following week, but feel free to contact me in the interim, but it'll just be more limited contact. But I will be back for the meeting on the 29th.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All righty. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please stand up and stretch.
Everybody have a
to
good
talk
one.
to you.